So, as someone who does play-by-play for FCS college football, I, as much as anyone, am aware that you have high-level players that fly under the radar or maybe just needed a little bit more development when they were coming out of high school, but can be high-end players for Power 4 schools all over FCS college football. So, two guys from South Dakota, who, by the way, made a run to the FCS semifinals this past season. These two guys were at the heart of what they were doing in at least some capacity. So let's start with the guy I like more of the two, though I think both are capable of being good players, Joe Cotton. I want you to watch out for Vanderbilt here. Watch out for Vanderbilt. So Cotton is a left tackle, 6'7", 6'7", 315 pounds. And when you watch him pass block, he's number one, very well developed in the weight room. He's really, really strong. He moves well for a guy of that size. And Pro Football Focus watched his season because they watch every single snap and said, yeah, he had a great year. 81.5 overall grade. That's elite. 77.8 in pass pro. 82.8 in run blocking. So this is not a guy who looks like a one-trick pony. This is someone who had spent a couple years getting his body into shape. I don't know why he wound up in South Dakota. A lot of factors go into recruitment. That's also been a pretty solid football program at the FCS ranks over the last couple of years. The reason I say to watch for Vanderbilt here is not just because this is someone who's capable of making the jump up to Power 4 and starting. This is somebody whose offensive line coach at South Dakota just got hired to Vanderbilt to be the O-line coach on Clark Lee's staff. And by the way, the Commodores are not a place that you look at right now and say, I don't want to go there. There's no chance of winning. Really? They just had a winning season. They just beat Alabama for the first time in over 50 years. I mean, what can't happen for the Commodores? I don't know. I'd consider being a part of that. But he entered the portal, reportedly, with a do not contact tag, which means, generally speaking, two things. Number one, there was probably a little bit of tampering around. And number two, he knows where he's going. But that his mind has been made up. Now, maybe none of this was improper because, he's on the step. But again, I'm not someone who rings the bell on tampering. We got tampering over here. Nobody cares. Really? Like, seriously, nobody cares. It's just so prevalent that I struggle to get heavily invested. Well, this kid was tampered with. Yeah, I can't count on one hand, two hand, 50 hands, the number of kids that get tampered with every single cycle. So Cotton is someone who this past year was second team All Missouri Valley. Let me tell you, if you don't know anything about FCS football, the Missouri Valley is creme de la creme, best of the best. You've got the Dakotas. That's really all you need. Those schools know how to play FCS football at a high level. Missouri Valley's number one. Big Sky's probably number two. Those are the two best FCS conferences out there. So he's playing against high-level FCS competition, standing out in the eyes of the coaches in his league. So, yeah, someone who was also a freshman All-American in 2023 and a second-team All-Conference selection in 2024 with multiple years of eligibility left. Heck, maybe he's a one-and-done if he goes to a place like Vanderbilt or anywhere else that decides they would like his services as a football player. Maybe he winds up going one and done to the NFL. Maybe he comes and starts for a couple of years. One example, who this guy reminds me of in a lot of ways, is a player by the name of Johnny Cornelius over at Oregon. Went to Rhode Island for 2 years. Was an absolute stud. FCS All-American kind of guy. He was in that sort of range. I think he had that accolade. Went to Oregon, started a right tackle for 2 years on a unit that was a finalist, as in top 12 for the Joe Moore Award each of the last 2 seasons. He was a big part of that. That's kind of what I see. Now, Cotton has played left tackle the last couple of seasons for South Dakota. Does he have to play that going elsewhere? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he could switch to right, but it certainly looks like he's got everything you need to play left tackle. His body's in shape. He moves well, good feet, good hands, really, really strong. I mean, there were just not guys at the FCS level that I think could consistently challenge him based on the tape that I saw from him. So Joe Cotton, that's a name to keep in mind. He's going to go somewhere, probably starts at left tackle next year. I am not someone that overlooks the importance of offensive linemen. I will never do that. Never in my entire life. I'd be betraying one of my oldest friends if I didn't give the big boys their due credit. So, speaking of big boys, slightly smaller, still big, linebacker Gary Bryant has got all the traits that you want in a linebacker because he's pretty instinctual, but mostly he has got the physical development. And like Cotton, he has played for South Dakota for the last couple of years. Like Joe Cotton, he was second team All-Missouri Valley this past year. He racked up 103 tackles. 103 tackles. That's a lot, right in the middle of a defense. I suspect Cotton is able to translate his game to the next level easier than Bryant is able to at linebacker. However, I could wind up being wrong on that. These guys are coming to teams near or around you. That's what happens when you go out and have 103 tackles, 4 TFLs, and 2 interceptions. And he was responsible for 2 turnovers in their FCS quarterfinal game against UC Davis. So he's probably riding that kind of momentum and that great season. You see this all the time. Something I saw suggested, I don't remember the name of the coach who threw it out there, but I did think that it was worth discussing on the show. And part of the reason I wanted to bring these guys up today, when a player goes from one level of football or one conference to another, G5 to Power 4 or FCS to G5 or, FCS to Power 4 like Cotton and Bryant might do, should there be a transfer fee like what you see in European soccer paid to the team that is losing that guy? I don't think that's a ridiculous notion. In fact, I think it's a pretty logical one. This already exists in college sports with coaches. When a coach leaves a school before his contract is up to go take a bigger job, you know what the new school has to pay? They have to pay a buyout. Now, it shouldn't be on the same level, coaches and players, that it is simply not reasonable. I do think it's reasonable to suggest, hey, if they're going to take a guy who we recruited, who we coached, who we developed, into a player who is now good enough to go beyond this institution, we should be rewarded for that. And now in the revenue sharing era, that helps a whole heck of a lot, because now that money that would come in, however much it is, could go to finding a replacement player in the transfer portal or in the high school ranks. You don't have to filter it through an NIL collective or anything like that. You can just go out and say, hey, we're just going to pay these kids with money that we have in the department that we get from buy games or that we get from these sorts. I don't know that this idea is anywhere close to being implemented in college football. I just know I saw the clip and thought, wow, that's a pretty good idea. Because why should South Dakota lose these guys and get absolutely nothing? It's not the way it usually works in, any other sport that has free agency and transactions and such. Sometimes, a guy signs here or he gets traded there, you get a compensatory pick or you get cash considerations in baseball. Like, there are all sorts of ways that I think that could come to fruition. I think it's a worthy idea because South Dakota loses both these guys. Who's it easier to find replacement players for? South Dakota or literally any Power 4 program? I think you know the answer to that rhetorical question that I asked. So, Gary Bryant, the linebacker, Joe Cotton, the left tackle. Watch to see where those guys wind up. Vanderbilt. And let's see what sort of impact they have this year. But impact players in the portal before the portal's even open? Yes. Yes, indeed, there are. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.